10's Late News with Sandra Sully.
Tonight, just released, the chilling pictures from inside the horror that was September the 11th in New York. Despite a softening in Israel's attitude, its retribution against Palestinians continues. And Russell Crowe moves closer to his second Oscar. Good evening. First tonight, the chilling videotape that has just been released 6 months to the day after the terrorist attacks on America. It reveals frightening scenes of what happened inside the Twin Towers.
These emergency crews from New York are used to climbing ladders in a hurry. This morning, it was a more relaxed tour of a great Sydney icon. As they observed a minute's silence under the stars and stripes at half-mast, the rest of America glued to their television sets to watch never-before-seen footage of the destruction of their great icons. Two French filmmakers shooting a documentary on the New York Fire Department were following a unit as they attended to a routine gas leak. Then astonishing images, the crew following emergency workers inside the doomed building.
All right, come on down this way. Yeah, let's get out the way we came in.
At some point, I started to run. I don't even know if I was touching stairs on my way down. When I got about to 3 or 2 is when I started to think of my family, So I got to get out of here.
This may be a long way from ground zero, but the thoughts and prayers of these firefighters and police from New York are close to their fallen comrades.
It's a somber moment. We lost 4 guys in my firehouse. We lost some good friends.
As the crew soaked up the spectacular Sydney sunrise, there were a few teary red eyes. The bridge climber, sombre but spectacular chance to reflect and relax.
It's like a dream, the Australian people are amazing, and
it's definitely an honor to be here.
They'll be thinking of their family back home tonight when in New York, twin towers of light will shine into the night sky near the place where the Trade Center stood. Evan Batten, 10 News.
And this evening, Ground Zero emergency workers were guests of honour at an emotional state reception in Sydney. Members of the New York Police and Fire Departments gave a piece of the World Trade Center to Australia. The piece of steel was handed to New South Wales Premier Bob Carr as a thank you for Australia's support. Mr Carr handed state flags to the guests to commemorate their trip. In other news, Australian Special Forces troops have moved into Afghanistan's eastern mountains as hundreds of weary American soldiers withdraw after 8 days battling al-Qaeda and Taliban fighters. Around 1/3 of the American force is now back at Bagram Air Base, but the US military says Operation Anaconda is not over yet. The Afghan rebels have just been reduced to a few hundred, the remaining troops trying to flush them out of their cave hideouts. So far, 8 American troops and 7 Afghan soldiers have died, and about 100 have been wounded in what's turned into the biggest battle of the 5-month-old war. A little fresh hope in the Middle East conflict, both sides saying they are ready to resume peace talks. The breakthrough follows a shocking weekend of violence involving suicide bombings and Israeli missile strikes. But a warning, some scenes in this report could disturb some viewers.
The wrath of Israel. Jets bomb the Palestinian symbolic headquarters in Gaza. This is all that's left of Yasser Arafat's office, the damage wrought by missiles fired from helicopters. Amazingly, no injuries. But in Bethlehem, 4 boys wounded by Israeli tank fire. The tanks had been attacking the Daisha refugee camp and surrounding buildings. The locals say they have no food or water, and now no homes. The explosion of revenge followed a Palestinian suicide bombing at this cafe. 11 Israelis killed. And as the cleanup continued, the funerals began. The Palestinians buried their dead too, further fueling the hateful tension. At checkpoint Aram, soldiers used a booby-trap safeguard to move the body of a Palestinian. The Israelis say he was shot carrying a rifle, grenades and ammunition. This used to be a car, blown to bits when a bomb went off prematurely. Nothing left of the 2 Palestinian occupants. But there is new hope for peace. And it rests with this man, ex-Marine General Anthony Zinni. He's America's special envoy. Washington keen to have him cut a deal.
The president has always said that he would be willing to use his special envoy when we could make a difference. And we think that the violence is obviously at a level that is unacceptable.
The Israelis and Palestinians say they're now willing to talk, but the death toll speaks louder. In just 18 months, this war has cost the lives of more than 1,000 Palestinians and over 300 Israelis. Patrick Burns, 10 News.
More disruption is looming for Australian air travellers, with air traffic controllers in Melbourne planning a 4-hour stop-work meeting on Wednesday. 8 international and 60 domestic flights could be grounded, while up to 250 controllers attend the meeting. They're seeking better pay and work conditions. The government will try to stop the strike through the Industrial Relations Commission tomorrow. The Perth coroner has been told Australia's air safety watchdog has not been helpful in investigating one of the nation's worst aviation disasters. 8 men died when their twin-engine plane flew across the continent, apparently on autopilot, before crashing in Queensland.
The King Air plane took off at sunset. Its pilot, Ken Mosedale, was flying 7 miners to work at the Sons of Gwalia mine site. But soon after, air traffic controllers lost contact with the aircraft. The plane flew on for another 4.5 hours before crashing in Queensland. Today, the inquest into the deaths of the 8 men began. Just 4 days ago, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau released its report into the crash. The Bureau found the men probably died from a lack of oxygen when the cabin depressurised. And an audible warning alarm costing about $2,000 may have prevented the crash. But today, in a scathing opening address, counsel assisting the coroner said the Bureau's report was months overdue. He accused investigators of keeping the victims' families in the dark. In his evidence today, the pilot's brother, Kim Mosedale, said he'd flown with Ken many times and described him as very professional. Mr Mosedale's boss, who owned the charter plane, said he'd flown with the pilot in a thunderstorm and he handled everything very well. The coroner will hear more evidence about the crash over the next fortnight. Cecile O'Connor, 10 News.
When 10 News continues, 2 more pathology labs under investigation for faulty pap smear tests. Australia wins major concessions from America over steel tariffs. And Russell Crowe moves closer to winning that second Oscar.
He's driving them crazy.
You hit my patrol car.
I don't care if I killed the guy. You're supposed to look the other way.
Whatever you do, I want to look the other way.
Everybody loves Raymond. Tuesday at 8 on 10.
Renault. We don't just make cars, we create cars. Some tyres deliver sports handling. Others grip in the wet. Michelin does it all perfectly. Discover true driving exhilaration. Because at Michelin, we design tyres for you without compromise. Michelin. Discover a new driving experience.
The one thing I can't take is losing hair. So I went to the experts for a free hair check.
Advanced hair?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Call now, 1-800-800-500.
The awesome Robbie Williams. 4 hit singles from Sing When You're Winning. And now, Swing When You're Winning, featuring Nicole Kidman. Get them both now.
You're watching 10 News. 2 more pathology laboratories, this time in New South Wales, are under investigation over faulty pap smear results. MedTest has had its accreditation suspended, along with Wilbinski Pathology, which closed more than a year ago.
Naturally, we'll be wanting to support the Commonwealth Government and indeed the Cancer Council, who are the custodians of the New South Wales pap test register, in their efforts to immediately contact all women who may have had a test through the MedTest laboratories.
The revelation follows questionable pap smear results from General Diagnostic Labs in Victoria. A New South Wales pap smear hotline has been established. It is 1800 444 101. That's 1800 444 101. The man accused of setting fire to the Childers backpacker Hostel allegedly confessed to the crime after being captured. Today, the last of the Crown witnesses gave evidence at his trial.
The Slark family lost twin daughters in the Childers backpacker hostel fire. Today, in the Supreme Court, they were only metres from the man who allegedly confessed to lighting the blaze. Police dog handler Sergeant Glenn Damrow told the jury he was administering first aid to Robert Long after a violent struggle when the 38-year-old said, "I'm dying, I started that fire." The officer told the court he and his police dog Titan found Long on the bank of the Burrum River 5 days after the blaze. He said Long confronted them with a knife, attacking both he and the police dog. "I said, 'Drop the knife or I'll release the dog.' He lunged forward at me. I let Titan go. He just got the knife and started stabbing into Titan." Late this afternoon, another officer told the jury he heard calls for help and fired 3 shots. Long stopped moving. Police photographs show bullet casings on the ground, as well as tears in the blood-stained jacket Long had been wearing. Long suffered cuts to his arm and ear consistent with dog bites. The surgeon who treated him told the court he was very reluctant to say very much about how he was injured. The Crown will begin summing up its case against Robert Long tomorrow. Long, who's pleaded not guilty to arson and 2 counts of murder, has chosen not to give evidence. Lisa Goddard Rolls, 10 News.
The federal government has won a reprieve for Australia's steel producers. The deal will save us from the 30% tariff on some types of steel, meaning only 15% of Australia's $450 million exports will be subject to the tax.
This is the result, let me say, of a very strong, effective and coordinating lobbying effort in the right manner.
And Mr Howard says Australia will continue to fight for the remainder to be exempt. To finance news now, the Australian share market closed the day softer. The benchmark All Ordinaries Index down 6 points. News Corporation was the strong performer, climbing 30 cents, while Telstra added 3. But the banks lost ground. The NAB down 58 cents, Commonwealth falling 56. $1 Australian dollar is buying 52.9 American cents, and gold is trading at $291.80 US an ounce. And at CommSec tonight is Carl Jensen. Carl, banking and resource stocks seem to keep the market under pressure today.
Yeah, it was certainly the case, Sandra. With the local market close to those record highs, we certainly saw some profit-taking emerge today. However, after a poor performance last week, the rate-sensitive banking sector slipped a little further on the possibility of future interest rate increases.
Now, plenty to keep a focus on again this week. More economic data due out and more interim results.
Well, tomorrow morning we've got housing finance. Later in the week we've got employment. Looking on the earnings front, we've got QBE Insurance on Wednesday, we've got Coles Wine Thursday, Harvey Norman on Friday, and we could see the local market move a little higher if we see further evidence of a US recovery.
Thank you, Carl. Carl Jensen at CommSec. Russell Crowe is a step closer to winning his 2nd Oscar, having won the Best Actor accolade at the annual Screen Actors Guild Awards.
Australians have beaten a well-worn path down the red carpet this Hollywood Awards season, and on the Oscar home stretch, the novelty's not wearing off.
I'm not bored, baby. I'm having a ball.
With the Oscars now just a fortnight away, the actors tonight are honouring their own at the annual Screen Actors Guild of America Awards.
Outstanding actor in a lead role goes to Russell Crowe.
On any given night, millions of people across the world buy a ticket for adventures that only we as storytellers can provide. We make people laugh. We make people talk over breakfast. This is a great job.
On the Best Actress front, it was a surprise win, with an emotional Halle Berry chosen ahead of favourite Sissy Spacek. Apart from being the final awards ceremony before the Oscars, tonight's Screen Actors Guild Awards are one of the most accurate barometers of who will claim the Oscar. Only 3 of SAG's lead acting winners have missed out in the past 7 years. Moulin Rouge was beaten by the cast of Gosford Park, and Nicole Kidman didn't even make the shortlist despite her Oscar nomination. In Los Angeles, Deborah Knight, 10 News.
Still to come here in 10 News, Prime Minister Howard blocking Michael Wooldridge's multi-million-dollar deal. A canine calamity, Britain's top dog, a foreigner. And in sports tonight, South Africa strengthens its grip on the second test against Australia in Cape Town.
Everything right about that shot. He wasn't trying.
It's just what the doctor ordered.
Are you ready?
Tuesday, saucy supermodel Megan Gale, Secret Life star Joel Edgerton, Hollywood's Stuart Townsend, and Incubus Live. Rogue, 9:30 Tuesday on 10.
1 hour. And I urge you, be on time. Urge?
She's got the urge to herbal. She'd rather herbal in the shower for another half an hour. Natural botanical. She's got the urge to herbal.
You boys aren't going anywhere.
Herbal Essences, a totally organic experience.
I like to extract the filling.
I like to wolf it down.
How do you eat yours?
Get ready for a second rush on DVD. The fastest hands in the East ring teams with the loudest mouth from the West.
Sorry, man. Oh, y'all look alike. Watch out!
In the hit comedy that packs extra punch on DVD. With knockout special features, including hilarious outtakes.
Damn! He ain't gonna be in Rush Hour 3.
Rush Hour 2. Get the full rush on DVD.
It's the things that Westfield do. Westfield and Packard Bell are giving over $2 million worth of computers and prizes to participating primary schools around Australia. You can help your school win computers just by shopping at any Westfield. Every dollar you spend earns 1 point, and the school with the most points wins the most computers. So get in the race for computers now and shop for your school at Westfield. It's the things, it's the things, it's the things that Westfield do.
Chandler's and LG bring you Ripper Rewards. Buy any LG product at Chandler's and you could win a $10,000 shopping spree. Plus, you could rip and win prizes instantly. LG Ripper Rewards.
Chandler's, we stand behind the product we sell.
You're watching 10 News. A controversial court case is underway in Sydney, seeking to give disabled children the right to sue if medical negligence denied to their parents the right to terminate the pregnancy.
It's argued that when little Alexa Harriton was born, it was a wrongful life. Born profoundly disabled, suffering blindness and deafness, she's mentally retarded and in need of 24-hour care. Not to be cruel, but to be practical, she's what the legal world calls an unwanted child, one who was born in effect because of a doctor's mistake. Here it's alleged rubella in pregnancy should have been picked up.
If the rubella had been diagnosed, there would have been a lawful and medically indicated termination of pregnancy.
The family's lawyer put it this way, describing the idea that a child is a blessing as a religious one. But he said the fact is that children do cost money and handicapped children cost much more. And if it was through a doctor's negligence that a mother's right to choose whether to have the child or not was removed, then it's the doctor who should pay. The argument is, how do you compensate someone for the life they've been given when the only alternative was no life at all? Lawyers for Alexia, who's now 20, say that couldn't be further from the truth, insisting this is about giving rights to disabled children, not taking them away. Jacinta Hocking, 10 News.
An independent review of Australia's social security system has found it is simply not working. Leading experts say harsh penalties for breaching welfare rules are preventing people finding jobs.
Should be about engaging more and more people in the market. That's their salvation, and it's what the Australian economy needs.
The report urges the government to halve the fines for breaches, which at present can run up to $1,450. Prime Minister Howard has moved to block a multi-million-dollar deal done by former Health Minister Michael Wooldridge just before the last federal election. Mr Howard says not 1 cent will be diverted from asthma programs to a doctors' lobby group that now employs the former minister.
As he arrived for work this morning, the Prime Minister read a newspaper editorial that argued taking $5 million from an asthma and regional health programs was a bad idea, especially as the funds were directed by former Health Minister Dr Michael Wooldridge to the College of General Practitioners for their new Canberra office, and the GPs now employ him as a consultant. The Australian Medical Association is appalled.
This raises a number of very serious questions about what the taxpayer is getting out of this health expenditure.
The Prime Minister agrees.
No less money, not a dollar or a cent less, will be allocated to the relevant asthma and medical specialist programs as a result of the contract offered.
Mr Howard has called for an urgent report from the Finance and Health Departments. Apparently, he's far from satisfied with the explanation given yesterday that the money was an underspend.
It's a Sunday when it's not easy to get all the information. I was advised that it was from underspend, but the Prime Minister wants to have all the facts before him.
The government clearly realises that this particular grant is a rort.
The Prime Minister doesn't rule out the government withdrawing its $5 million offer to the GPs, but he ducked an opposition call for him to adopt a 1-year cooling-off period for former ministers before they can take jobs in their old areas. Labor didn't do it in government, but Simon Crean says times have changed. Paul Bongiorno, 10 News.
Police believe they have broken a major reptile smuggling ring out of Sydney. A 68-year-old woman has been charged with offences under the Environment Act after almost 100 reptiles were found stuffed into small cylinders. They were on their way out of the country when airport officials raised the alarm. Inside the tubes, they found a variety of native geckos and snakes, including 4 tiger snakes and 3 pythons, with more than 40 geckos stuffed into 1 cylinder alone. The woman will appear in court tomorrow morning. The maximum penalty for trying to export Australian native fauna is a $100,000 fine or 10 years jail. Australian children are to be banned from buying music with offensive lyrics under a new crackdown that's being planned by both state and federal governments.
It's been an issue since Alice Cooper and the boys from Kiss first hit the airwaves, shocking parents and conservative groups into calling for them to be banned.